What's good, superstars? Back with another floaty video. You got Superstar Joe, you got Superstar Rob, and you got Superstar James Dillon in the chat down there. How's it going, James? How's it going, Rob? You know how I feel about James Bond. How you doing?
I'm good, guys. Thanks for having me on. That was an interesting introduction there. I like it.
I mean, it's our thing. And before we move on, if you guys haven't already, don't forget, become a superstar. Smash the subscribe button down below. Hit the bell notification so you know when we post some fun interviews like this one. Today, we're going to learn a lot from this one. I feel like you can also become a VIP member, $2.99 a month. Hit the join button under the video. You get one of these stars next to your name. You can flex in the comments or get entered into the giveaways at the end of every single month. Follow us on X, follow us on Instagram, join the Discord. I think we're going to have to put a floaty tab in there, Rob, for people to talk about floaty and all of the innovations that they're doing. Guys, you don't understand. A lot of the things that you've been asking for on the channel, you've been asking for in the space, they already exist. So we're just trying to get that word out there so you guys understand more. And it might be for a little bit of different projects, but it might be coming to new projects that we haven't seen it come to yet. So we're going to pick James Dillon-Bond's brain today and try and get as much information as we can from him, but also learn a little bit about the floaty platform and what it offers.
Yeah, and our Discord, 374 members strong. We're definitely going to add a floaty tab going forward so you can have discussions there. So make sure you guys join it. But yeah, so James, we got to ask you, what made floaty come to be? Why was this created? You know, what was the inspiration? How long it has been around? Maybe give us a rundown.
Yeah, so it's been around a few years. I'm not sure if you know Mike MBL267. He's one of our founders. And he's one of the true OGs in the Top Shot ecosystem there. And coming from a finance background, him and a few others decided that what was a big thing that was missing in the ecosystem was the ability to do loans in particular, take out loans, utilizing your Top Shot NFTs as collateral. And so that's kind of the idea that really brought floaty to us. And it's really grown from there over the last few years, just as everything else has been in the flow ecosystem. Now we offer, in addition to the loans aspect, we offer rentals. We have a full-blown marketplace supporting most collections on Flow blockchain. And we're just continuously trying to innovate, push new features, new integrations with other platforms for people that are building on Flow. It's been a lot of fun, and I enjoy being part of the process, as I'm also a collector.
And what exactly do you do there? Are you their like head socials or?
Yeah, I don't even really know my exact title nowadays. It's partnerships and marketing, but I do really anything that's tied to socials and community engagement. I help with a lot of the partnership side of things, working with some of the collections, bringing different types of customizations and just like campaigns together with these collections as they realize how important having someone like a marketplace is to work alongside with.
Very cool. So you're definitely not in charge of airdrops. I mean, I'm missing a James Bond airdrop on one of the platforms. Just need to know you're not in charge of that airdrop I'm supposed to be getting, right?
I am not. I am not. They don't put that level of trust in me.
I had a question for you. So, I mean, obviously, we're used to marketplaces on some of the projects that we cover on our channel. We're used to some self-custody type of markets. We're used to some custodial type of markets. This is basically self-custody type of wallet that you guys are integrating here, where people can move things around inside your platform or outside your platform, right? Like that's how the market would work with floaty.
Yeah. So with all those different collections, you saw a lot on there as you were scrolling through it. And if you go to the Flow NFT catalog, if you just Google that, it will come right up. As soon as a collection gets approved there, they actually get automatically added into floaty, which is really great because it's built for scalability. And so then as these contracts get approved that they're good to go, they're going to get added into floaty. So many times as builders are coming into the Flow ecosystem, they reach out to us and they're like, hey, how do I get added in? This is my contract that just got approved. And the first thing we're like, hey, guess what? Here's your collection on floaty. As long as it gets approved, it's going to show up on there, and all the images, everything that's tied to the collection itself and the contracts is going to appear on floaty, which is great.
So you mean if it gets approved to be like held in a Dapper wallet? Is that what that means? Or does it mean like, because we know that there's other ecosystem, or not other projects that are built on Flow that may not necessarily yet be interoperable? Like, how does that work? Is it if it's built on Flow, it's automatically there? Or is it something that they have to be approved to be, like the smart contract has to be unlocked or whatever to allow it onto Dapper Wallet? Is that what it is?
Dapper Wallet, I think, is a whole nother layer to it, and
Okay.
I think that only specific collections can get added to Dapper Wallet. I'm personally not familiar with the process for a collection get added to Dapper, but as long as they get added to the Flow NFT catalog, they're going to get added to Flowty. And with that, sure, they might add Dapper Wallet at some point there. I know a lot of collections want to get that added in right away, but with different features that are going on Floaty, you're able to utilize both custodial wallets like Dapper Wallet and non-custodial wallets like Blockdo or Flow reference wallets.
Very cool.
Yeah, this is something that's really interesting because there's projects that we track that are in the Flow ecosystem, and we're hoping to see them compatible with Floaty in some capacity because we all want to be able to, have that marketplace, have the trades, have the rents. But maybe you can give an understanding to us on why exactly would somebody want to rent or loan their collectibles? Maybe you can give me a rundown just from what you've seen on your platform.
Absolutely. And I think it's worth really differentiating the two there because loans and rentals really have a lot of similar concepts. They're really different. So on the loan side, this is where somebody has an NFT that they want to use as collateral in a loan request. So they need money, they have an NFT, and so they put that up and say they want X amount of money. They will repay it an additional amount back so that the lender can receive interest, and they're utilizing that NFT as a collateral. At the end of the term that was designated there, if the loan is not repaid, the NFT will go to the lender. And so that this is great because it allows for both parties to not need to know each other. You have this worldwide ecosystem available to you, and as long as a potential borrower is setting up their terms correctly on their loan, they're going to probably find a lender out there that finds those terms attractive and are willing to take the risk that if the loan is not repaid, they get the collateral as instead, which is great.
Are the loans all in Flow? Is that like the currency, or is it like USDC? Is there other currencies available?
I'd say most loans right now are happening in USDC on Flow, not Flow itself, but just because it adds an extra variable that people have to consider with risk there. But I have seen many loans happening in Flow itself, but I think just for the stability, I see a lot more people utilizing USDC.
Is there like a highest loan that's public knowledge or something like that people know about? Is it being utilized, this system yet, or is it something in its infancy right now?
No, so this has been around at least 2 years. We had a lot of really large loans initially up front there, and then we started seeing some other loans. I want to say one of the LeBron James, the block moments, which was one of his moments they blocked Andre Iguodala. I think it was out of 23. I want to say there was a special series, one of those that was someone took like a $20K loan against that.
Wow.
Within the last year, but we see a lot of loans around like the $500 to $1,000 level.
Wow,
that's insane. And what kind of
amazing
interest
utility.
rates? What's the going rate on the interest rates for these loans? So what kind of return are people getting on these?
You can look up to see what they are, both in the marketplace, see what is out there, and also in the activity, you can see what's been funded. It's hard to say exactly which rates might work, just due to the fact, and you can set those filters there in the top right for filter and go to funded.
Oh, can you zoom in a little bit there?
Yeah, I can zoom in. One second.
So once you get the funded up, you can really get an idea of what is out there getting funded. So there's a couple things that someone's going to keep in mind as a lender. There's not only the interest rates, but there's also they might get that collateral. So if somebody is taking out that LeBron James, let's say that's worth like $10,000, $20,000, but they're only looking to borrow $100 against it. But maybe I only make 101. I'm gonna take that chance and do that loan as a lender. Me personally, just on the off chance that like they're completely like the internet goes completely out. They didn't set up auto replant,
Wow.
auto return on their loans. Like there's just that small little chance. So there's a couple different strategies that lenders can apply to this. Not only getting the interest, but like what is that collateral, and then always making sure that they know that they're funding the right loans. That the value of the collateral exceeds that of the loan itself, because you want to make sure that they're going to pay back that loan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is this completely peer to peer, or is there like a approval system in the background? Like after it goes through, is it like once somebody makes the term, someone agrees to it, is done, or is there something that you guys have to check out after that?
There's the terms and conditions, but
Yeah.
it's all peer to peer, and
Very
so
cool.
we've seen a lot of lenders hitting the marketplace lately. A lot of borrowers hit the marketplace. We had someone make a post last week just talking about why they were putting up so many of their moments to loan against. Just because they wanted the idea of like going out and spending it on other things, and also seeing if they could make money faster than what the interest rate was on the loan. Of course, these all come with different types of risks, and making sure you know what you're doing first is highly recommended. But it's interesting just seeing the user perspective out there as to why someone would want to either borrow the money or lend the money.
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting concept, especially because we know that some of the prices of these things are meaningful. Like it's not like we're talking about pennies anymore, right? We're talking about thousands of dollars. So it doesn't surprise me that people are trying to do it. It's an investment strategy. They're trying to, take the loan, take the money. It's a little bit riskier because they have to make sure they cover their interest rate, but they go and invest it elsewhere and they come back and then hopefully they can pay it off. And I guess worst case scenario, they just lose their NFT, right? They'll just lose their NFT. It'll go to the lender and that person gets to keep whatever that money was. So that at the end, that would be the squash of it. And I guess the market will decide exactly on the balance of that, of how much of a discount you would get from just buying it outright. But how about the renting now? So give us some examples of why someone would want to rent their NFTs from Flowty.
Absolutely. And right now the rental marketplace has started to pick up a little bit, and this is due to NBA Top Shot Fast Break. And we've seen this before with different types of challenges and things like that will give like a short-term bump in utility for owning a specific moment. And so with Fast Break, we've seen this for the remaining players that are in the NBA playoffs and some of their higher rarities. So like the rare and the legendaries, we've seen them start to get rented out a little bit more. We see that here on the top of the screen here. SGA, Jaylen Brown, Doncic, and Tatum, all four really good players that are active in the playoffs. And they're renting them out. So one person has a stack of these, and they're looking to, if they don't use it, it's just going to sit there. So they're trying to figure out a way to capture that short-term like demand in wanting this moment in their collection. And so they're able to rent it out to people for a short fee, a small fee compared to the cost of the item itself. So they're able to make money without like losing the item, which is great for them, that they're just charging essentially interest on their initial purchase. But the big thing that's needed there is that returnable deposit.
Mm-hmm.
And just like with the loans where you had that collateral there as the moment, and the demand that the person needed was money, this one is the demand that they need is the moment, and the deposit is what's going to get put in into the smart contract and is what is returned to the original to the renter upon return of the moment, or it will go to the moment's owner if not returned within the time period designated on the screen there.
So in this case, go ahead, Joe.
It's not necessarily going to be like $25 to rent that Luka. It would be $12.75, and then you get back to $12.50. Is that how I'm understanding it?
Exactly. And so that, again, this goes back to, you don't need to know the other party there. Both parties feel comfortable with the idea that, hey, you're putting up this money to rent it, but then there's also this deposit that makes the original owner feel comfortable renting it out to somebody else.
Mhm.
So if it doesn't come back to them, they get that deposit back. So you have to plan and set your deposits accordingly.
Interesting. How does Floaty make money in all this? What's your fees? I'm assuming you take a fee in all these transactions?
Yeah, it's 2% is our typical marketplace fee on everything, I believe. And so
Okay.
that's on the loans, the rentals, and marketplace, where a lot of our actual volume is coming from the secondary marketplace. But I know loans themselves have really started to pick up interest across the community probably over the last month, which is great because we saw the marketplace really start to pick up interest probably during the holiday season.
So this renting, like, I'm not understanding this. Once I trade you, for example, let's say I or whatever, I send the Luca. Do I send it to Floaty and then you guys give it to that person? It has to be like a direct send to their wallet. Like how does it work? And then, like, is there no automatic way to pull it back that you need to have that returnable deposit? Like, is it something that, like, they have to actually actionably send back?
I'm glad you asked this because this has actually been a question frequently. So the transaction itself within Floaty, when you do the rental or you do the loan, that transaction is what pulls it from both wallets. There, the funds and the NFT, and starts moving in between. And during the course of the loan or the rental, that collateral or the deposit are sitting in the smart contract. So it's inaccessible to either of you. And upon the conclusion of the loan or rental, and you can select if you want to auto return it or auto repay it in terms of a loan. So you can schedule that to automatically go back once the time period is completed. So that can be done automatically, like you mentioned. Or you can manually go into the transaction itself and say, and manually trigger, I want to return this. And then once you return the loan or the rental, that deposit or collateral comes back to you.
So there's no way to set it up at the beginning where you say, okay, automatically return it after this transaction and avoid that deposit because it's automatically set up. Like, it has to be still sent back at the end, right?
Yeah, yes. So it there's no way to avoid that deposit because somebody does need to return it at the end.
Okay.
So a couple of questions. The first one is actually about Floaty's growth. So have you noticed over, let's say, the last maybe year, how's 2024 been, 2023? Because we know that the NFTs definitely had a bull run at this point now, 2022, early 2022, and it hasn't been as exciting as it was during that time, but we know the technology is building. How's your growth been? Have you noticed a lot of new users per month coming onto Floaty? Can you comment on that?
Yeah, I wish I would have pulled up some information on this one ahead of time to give actual numbers, but we definitely have been growing. And that's where I kind of mentioned going back to the holidays. And we make the joke that the Savannah effect is a joke I made on Twitter recently. My daughter was born on Thanksgiving. And we noticed that since that she was born, Floaty's daily sales have gone up over 10x. So that right there kind of paints the picture of like where we've been over the last 6 months or so, and it's one where we are consistently seeing new buyers hitting Floaty every single week, and that's what's great. Recently, Flipside Crypto, they've had a lot of analysts who want to create dashboards that are tracking some of this activity on Floaty, and some of those, like Diamond, his has been out there for a while, and he's you guys have probably seen him on like Cryptoids and Pinnacle and everything.
We're very good friends with Diamond at this point.
Perfect.
Pinnacle.
Yeah, so he's created a really good dashboard. Other ones have come out over the last week, all kind of capturing different angles and aspects of Floaty. But we have seen tremendous growth happen, and it's been amazing. Even though, like you mentioned, the overall ecosystem kind of meh in general, we've been able to increase our market share of just out there than that is amongst our other third-party marketplaces like Flowverse and Gaia, in addition to the like native marketplaces that you see on like the Top Shot, All Day, UFC Strike, La Liga, etc. And so we've been able to continue breaking into each of those market shares more and more as we've been able to roll out additional features that we have found that the community really enjoy. And so as much as we like to look at like our daily volumes and stuff, many times we're looking at just what is our marketplace share compared to everyone else, because we can only control so much in the ecosystem, but we can do our best to work on the buyer habits of those that are here and those that are operating, and really try to prove ourselves at Flowty as to why people that are doing business on Flow should be doing it on Flowty.
I think the demand towards Flowty is going to increase as we see more utility-driven projects building their platforms to provide real utility. And I love what's going on right now with Top Shot and the ability to rent and participate in the games. But I'll give you another example of one that we participate in. It's called So Rare. I don't know if you ever heard of it before.
Yep.
But so you get your cards, you can use your cards to participate. We do the MLB, for example. You know, they have the different rarities that all get you different enhancement and points. It's such a fantastic idea, the way that you can bring fantasy sports to the NFT world and marry those two. But I would love to have the option to rent, right? That'd be an incredible option that, you know, maybe in that specific week, my guys only have maybe 3 games instead of 4. I'll go rent a player to get me the extra games played. So like I think there's a whole new dynamic that some platforms are missing out on right now. Not that Solar would ever, you know, I don't think they're on Flow, so it would not be a good fit. But there are other platforms that we track that we know are trying to build utility-driven platforms where maybe rentability is now going to be a factor in those platforms. And then a place like Flowty would be an amazing marketplace that's already built for them. They can just leverage it instead of building it in-house and doing it themselves. They just link to you guys, and then from there, they let Web3 be the way it's supposed to be, right? Just as all these, the open sea.
This is the definition of token gating. Like, this is what we need the NFT space to be, instead of it being a money sell it, buy, sell type of deal. The more people hold, the more value that's going to come to this stuff long term. And by having these utilities to incentivize holding, I think that's where you start to see the next leg up. And we've been saying on the channel for like the last couple years now, it's that utility is the next driver. I feel like in the space, obviously the first one, everybody was like, oh, am I making 100% on everything that I do in this market? And then that went away. So how do we get there? I think what you guys are doing is going to be one of those big catalysts, starting to make people realize like there are other things you can do by holding collectibles and NFTs and all that. It's not just holding it and hoping that it's going to raise in value, right?
Yeah, and there's just more ways you can interact with your collection, and that's what we're trying to do, is figure out how do you utilize this collection that you've built so much time and money into, and do more with it. And so that was really kind of at the core of Flowty when it was first started, is how do you do more? And you know, shout out to our dev team. They've been great in terms of being able to consistently push out these new features that the communities ask for, things that, like, honestly, we've been able to like completely reprioritize at different times depending on like really strong demand around something. One time, Roham, the founder of Dapper, or CEO, I'm sorry, I don't know his exact role, he reached out and I want to say he was, I think, meaning to troll, and said like, oh, is this something you guys could push out in terms of having special cereal filters on Flowty for Top Shot? So that's like the #1 cereal, the Jersey Match cereal, the perfect cereal. And our CTO took that as a challenge, and he pushed it out the next day. And that's what's kind of great about Flowty. Everyone has fun with it, and they're passionate about what they do. And it's funny you bring up like OpenSea there. Our CTO was at OpenSea for a bit too.
Wow.
So what do the, like, obviously you're not dealing with homemade collections here. You're dealing with some pretty big IP, some pretty big companies, NBA. NFL, UFC, a lot of the sports leagues, and other ones. It looks like Doodles and some of these bigger. But how have they, like, I don't know if you have direct conversation or if it's through Dapper, how it works, but like, how do they receive this type of interaction with their collectibles or their NFTs? Because obviously there's IP there. Was there a big process to get any of this approved? Is there something that they had to sign off on? Like, how did that go down?
So there's a lot to unpack there. With the larger IP, I want to say Mike had to have some kind of conversations with the Dapper team in order to display the images, but part of just like the Flow ecosystem was the interoperability of the NFTs and being able to use them across the ecosystem. And that's how they were built and designed. And so I think as long as they have all those traits built into it, I wouldn't, I don't know if
they knew what they were getting into pretty much when they signed up.
And I don't know if they need to be as that involved, because that's why they have teams like Dapper Labs and Concept Labs that are kind of their operating side of the collections themselves. And again, this is my own personal stance on it. I'm not as familiar with it, but that's why they have those teams run and organize that and be who is really running those projects themselves. And that's where like the Dapper Sports, it's DSS is their abbreviation, but it's the team that runs Top Shot All Day and La Liga. And so they kind of manage those relationships with the league itself, but then are like the glue that then interacts with Flowty and the rest of the ecosystem. And same with Concept Labs for UFC. Folks like Doodles, they do that themselves, and a lot of the other collections all do that themselves. And they always enjoy because they're able to find more utility for their collectors. Like you mentioned, all of a sudden we're able to offer features that aren't available on other marketplaces.
So I know that this is pure speculation talk. You don't have this brand or anything on your website yet. Obviously, we've tracked Pinnacle. We talked about Diamond a little bit earlier. We know that they're built on Flow. Do you think down the line, with them being built on Flow, they pretty much, and having Dapper actually in their name, they'd be set up like Disney is kind of trusting Dapper to let them kind of integrate into the entire Dapper Flow ecosystem, and pretty much they're signing by having them built on Flow. They kind of knew what they're getting into when it comes to this type of ecosystem. They've seen NBA and all these guys go through. Do you think that that's something that Disney's aware of down the line? Could potentially be something that is going to be happening, loans and renting and this type of thing that could happen with their collectibles if approved?
Yeah. So just as we see here on the screen, they are a collection that is visible on Flowty. They have not enabled for collection to be listed for renting or loans or any sort of marketplace. I am not sure of Pinnacle's future plans personally. I hope that we can support them. I do have some pins. I have some friends that are really active on Pinnacle. It's a really cool concept. But I forgot, when I said that the three that Dapper ran, I forgot Pinnacle included as one that Dapper Labs does operate. So I'm hoping it's something that it comes over to us, because it would be really cool, especially if they have the little challenges that they're running for the rental side. So we mentioned challenges earlier. Challenges are, you need to collect these 5 pins. And if you collect these 5 pins, you get this exclusive limited edition pin. And I can see the rentals becoming a big thing there, where somebody gets a stack of pins. They don't want to sell them, but it hits in a challenge. So they're like, hey, I got 5 of the same one. I'm going to rent out 4. I'm going to use my one. And see if they can make a few bucks back on each of those rentals that they do outbound. And same with someone who might be wanting to rent those, is that they don't want to buy them because of the market. They just don't want to go and own it long term, but they want to rent it because they want to finish that challenge. I can totally see that. And then maybe even those limited edition pins. I know that they have I don't have the right terminology, but like the different skins on them, where like there's the ones that are gold and stuff like that. where like some of the really good ones could probably be borrowed against for a decent amount of money, depending on their value of them. So I can definitely see where this is going to be something where they're hitting basically all of the floaty functions in terms of loans, rentals, and secondary marketplace. I don't know if it happens though. I'm hoping it does, but I think they said it's another few months before they enable trading of them. Correct?
Yeah, I mean they're
They've been
not
very quiet.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're the most like transparent in terms of their plans. They're very quiet as an organization, but at the same time, we know how Dapper thinks. I think everything you said is very realistic with them because Pinnacle, why would they change what they've already doing on other platforms that they operate, right? So we think that it's going to probably be almost like the exact same with the challenges and everything. And I think what you're mentioning right now is something that is going to happen. I really hope that they leverage, something like Floaty where you can rent them, so you don't have to go and buy them in the secondary market. Because right now that's all we're used to. We're used to if you want to do something, you can't rent it. You have to go and buy the collection in order to participate in those challenges, if you want to call it that, for other platforms as well. And I think when you get the rentability, you get the trading, you get these things, and you have a marketplace like Floaty that can actually provide that and make it something that we can actually do, because it's not as easy to do this transaction outside of a marketplace. I think it's going to really be game changer for bringing in new people into the space. So you can actually have some real fun with it, some real utility with it. Right now, the space is really just driven by people who want to own, not necessarily collect, but maybe flip. Everybody likes to have a marketplace so that they can potentially take some gains. But I think that when you start putting in this angle of games, challenges, and you actually rent, I think people are going to like it, and they might grow their collection and own their collection just so they can be ready for the next challenge, the next game. So it's just an amazing dynamic that hopefully will continue to expand. And this leads me back to why Flow. It sounds like you said your CEO, they were in NFL all day, and then that's what sparked the idea. So naturally, they went with the Flow ecosystem. Is there any possible way that you can expand this outside of Flow? Is there any talks of the future with allowing this outside just Flow? Is it even possible?
Oh man, that's that. Whether it's possible, that's a whole nother question, and I have no clue. We haven't had any talks of moving off of Flow. We're pretty happy there, and honestly, for a branding perspective, it would feel weird to support other chains when Flow is 66% of our business's name. So I think we're happy where we're at right now. We're happy with the projects that are out there. We're happy with our growth. We're happy with the development that we've been able to really do alongside the Flow ecosystem. Whether it's something like account linking, which is we haven't really touched on, but that was something that our CTO and our dev team put together there, which is allowing your Dapper wallet to be linked to like your non-custodial wallets like Blocto or Flow Reference. So then that really simplifies the rental and loan experience itself, where you're able to pay for your loans and rentals using the USDC and Flow in your non-custodial wallet, and and it just pulls it automatically from your Dapper wallet that's linked to it. And so that's really fun, because before that, in the past, before that happened, you'd have to like withdraw your asset from your Dapper wallet to your Blocked or Flow Reference in order to do that. And it just
it's annoying.
It created a huge point of friction. And that's what we know in the space. You need to really start breaking down to get adoption.
Yeah, we had El Dumbo on the channel maybe a few months ago, and we asked him about cross-chain functionality. So that's why, it's a curious thing that like if Flow, the actual, like if the infrastructure starts allowing cross-chain, how could that maybe potentially affect you guys?
They bring it into Flow, and then they do it on Floaty in Flow.
I couldn't even speculate to that. I'm not as familiar on that side. The technical, I'll leave that to the big brains in Floaty to figure out.
I had one question, maybe. I don't know if you have any feedback on this from communities, because obviously by having the opportunity to allow for renting and loaning and all these things, I think maybe because you do have that deposit structure that it might not affect the market prices and like crazy, because you would think like if you're able to rent something for a cheaper amount of money, then maybe people won't be urged to go purchase it from the marketplace, might bring down market prices. Is that something that you guys have gotten feedback on? Because I guess they still get refunded that deposit, so it's still technically, in the end of the day, will be a cheaper way to utilize that collectible, and maybe there's less people that will be wanting to buy the collectible when they can just go and rent it. Is that? And have you gotten any of that feedback?
I understand what you're saying with that. I feel like once you've passed this short-term utility spike, you give it a week, it's going to regress back to the norm anyways. So I don't think it's going to have any real impact on it. In the end, I think it does just provide that additional path for both the renters and the owners there that maybe wasn't accessible to them before.
Net positive. Yeah, that makes sense.
I got one more question. What's next for Floaty? Like, what do you guys have a roadmap in terms of what new features you want to build? Are you just looking for new partnerships? Is that the key thing right now for you?
Well, I think that depends on who you ask. Of course, I'm looking always for new partnerships. We did just launch that we were now the preferred marketplace of choice for ballers on flows. We've done that with a couple other collections as they kind of established who's their preferred marketplace, and that's been great. And our recent integrations with Own the Moment and Live Token have been really good for Top Shot and all day collectors. But in terms of roadmap, it's hard to say, not only because I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but sometimes things just take longer than others. Priorities shift. And many times we try not to put too much out there ahead of time because it also creates expectations that maybe we don't want to have in front of us. So we've frequently tried to we keep it pretty close to the chest in terms of our future plans, but we're always building, we're always developing, and by we, I'm talking about not me. But honestly, our dev team is really great. Our design team's really great. They got some things coming in the pipeline. They're always updating the user interface. Our designers just going ham on it constantly. We do have a really cool new feature that it's coming soon. I don't know when, but I know I was able to get a little sneak peek of it a few weeks ago, and it should be really cool as we really try to broaden the flow ecosystem in general, and just really find ways to provide additional utility, additional things to do on flow, and ways to utilize your NFTs and your tokens in your wallet.
I love the last sentence there. Utility. That's what this channel is all about. And you guys are doing a great job bringing utility to some collectibles that maybe didn't have them before, and very unique, innovative ways. First time I've heard of loaning NFTs or even renting in action. Like we've heard people talk about, we've heard companies talk about getting NFTs rented. You guys are actually already doing it. It's already happening. You can go check the activity on the Flowty website. Trevor, thank you so much for hanging out with us and answering all our questions and taking the beating at the beginning of the video. If you guys want to go and follow Trevor on socials, JamesDillonBond, and you'll find him over there. You can also follow the Flowty official Twitter, which is Flowty_IO, and you can go hang out and ask them any questions. Very responsive. I mean, DM and interview same day today. Shout out to Omi Dailyburn, who brought up the renting thing in our Twitter, and then Flowty came to mind, obviously. So thank you so much for coming on again.
Yeah, absolutely. We're here to help, and make sure you also follow FloatyBot. I see that right there in the bio of Flowty. So if you want to keep up with some of the bigger transactions that are happening on Flow blockchain, we're capturing all that on there. So you see it's $100 sales. We see that one right there, nice and sexy. The
nice and pinned.
Wow.
60K. So that was our record sale on Flowty.
Number one of 32. Wow.
Yeah, so that one was pretty amazing. We've been seeing just a lot of collections getting active. We're here to help, and like you mentioned, you DM'd me earlier about it. I'm here. But we're very supportive both on Twitter, on Discord. We're here for the collectors. Flowty, we're built for collectors by collectors.
Nice.
Yeah, amazing. And I think before we head out, Joe, we got to give our classic superstar standing O here. Great job. Great job. Thank you for that, Trevor, for that incredible answering all our questions, being here on such short notice too. We just hit you up and you made yourself available. So we really appreciate you joining us today. And before anybody leaves and before we head out, if you guys enjoyed this, make sure you smash the subscribe button, join the Superstar fam, hit the bell notification so you get every single video every single day. We do not miss. We're here for you every single day. We do not miss. So make sure you guys hit that bell. Also to our Superstar VIPs, tune in on my Starbucks game. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Take care. We'll see you next one.
Love you. Bye.